I'm Steven Silvestrak, and we're about to explore solution equilibria. This is a major topic, not just because of its size, but because every MCAT has solubility problems. Luckily, for each solubility subtopic, saturation point, KSP, ion product, molar solubility, KF, and the common ion effect, we have straightforward ways to approach, understand, and solve solubility problems. But no matter how straightforward the approach, there is still much to understand in this large, complex, and important topic. So please don't hesitate to review this multiple times. Our overall goal is to be able to predict how ions will act in solution, and then be able to run calculations to find specific molar solubility and solution equilibria values. For example, in this common ion effect problem, if given the KSP of silver iodide and a concentration of silver nitrate, we want to quickly be able to find what the concentration of iodide would be in a saturated solution. Before we get into any calculations, let's make sure we conceptually understand what saturation means. We use terms like solute to describe the aqueous particles in solution and solvent to describe the liquid forming the solution. At the saturation point, the solvent has solvated the maximum amount of particles of this particular solute, and the aqueous concentration of that solute cannot stably maintain an increased level. As soon as the solute is put into a solvent, it will begin to dissociate into the solution. In this example, a silver chloride dissociated into silver and chloride ions. Just like silver chloride can dissociate into aqueous ions, the aqueous ions can come together and precipitate into silver chloride. This process can be represented through the following general reaction, where two species ionically bound together can dissociate into their respective ions or precipitate back into the original salt. The identities of A and B will change, and the subscripts M and N will change, but the basic reaction setup, including the phases, will be the same for every solubility problem. In this example, our solid was silver chloride, and the subscripts were all 1, meaning that we generated one aqueous silver ion and one aqueous chloride ion for every solid silver chloride particle that dissociated. When looking at this reaction, you can note the double arrows indicating that the reaction can occur in both directions. This means that there has to be some point of equilibrium, some point where the forward rate of dissociation is equal to the reverse rate of precipitation. In solubility problems, we call a system in equilibrium a saturated solution, and the equilibrium point is also known as the saturation point. If we have a state of equilibrium, there is going to be some type of equilibrium constant that helps mathematically define that point. The particular type of equilibrium constant used for saturation problems is the solubility product constant, or KSP, and this value lets us objectively compare the solubilities of different ionic compounds. KSP is an equilibrium constant, so it will be calculated just like KEQ, products over reactants. For each species, the coefficient will become the exponent, and everything gets multiplied together. Continuing with our previous example, both silver and chloride would have an exponent of 1. In the KSP expression, the concentrations used for the ions are the equilibrium concentrations, which is another way of saying the concentration of the ions at the saturation point. You may notice that in the KSP expression we generated, there is no denominator. If you remember back to the original expression, this is because the reactant was solid silver chloride, and pure solids and liquids do not appear in the equilibrium expressions. Only gaseous and aqueous species will appear in K expressions. Another carryover from the rules of equilibrium constants is that these constants, KSP included, are temperature dependent, and that also means pressure dependent if dealing with gases. Changing the temperature will change the value of K. And in general, with KSP, increasing the temperature will increase the solubility of solids. KSP is constant for a given temperature. The value doesn't change, it simply describes the equilibrium state. But we often deal with systems that are not at equilibrium. Even if every system constantly strives to be at equilibrium, it can take some time to get there. We need a way to relate the current state of a system to a system at equilibrium. And the ion product is what does this. Ion product is calculated the exact same way as KSP. However, instead of using the equilibrium concentration of the ions, we use the current concentration of the ions. The ion product gives us a snapshot picture of what this solution looks like. Ultimately, it is similar to Q from our equilibrium discussions. It just happens to have a special designation because we're dealing specifically with solubility. Stepping back to our silver chloride example, as we add more solid silver chloride and it dissociates, the concentration of the silver and chloride ions increases. As these concentrations rise, the ion product rises as well. It is a real-time measure of the current conditions of our solution. Currently, the ion product is less than KSP. It is below the equilibrium point, and so we designate this solution as unsaturated. In unsaturated solutions, if we add more solute, it will continue to dissociate. As we add more solute, the ion product increases and will eventually reach the KSP. At this point, the solution is at equilibrium, and we call it a saturated solution. Adding more silver chloride would increase the ion product above KSP. This would make the solution supersaturated, and supersaturated solutions have a tendency to precipitate out. And when precipitation occurs, there are fewer ions in solution, so the ion product can drop back down towards KSP. Systems are always trying to reach equilibrium. By forming a precipitate, a supersaturated solution is able to return towards a saturated state and no longer be in the unstable supersaturated state. Although we've spent all this time referring to the concentration of the solute, we haven't actually given that concentration a name until now. Molar solubility is the term used to describe the concentration of a solute at equilibrium. And if we know the molar solubility, we can calculate the KSP of a solute. We'll use this example with chromium 3 hydroxide to demonstrate how to calculate KSP given a molar solubility of 2 times 10 to the negative 10th. We attack this problem in the same way we attack all equilibrium problems, by writing out the reaction. We start with solid chromium 3 hydroxide, and then we write out how it will dissociate into water. Given the balanced reaction, we can then generate an equilibrium expression. Don't forget that hydroxide's coefficient will become the exponent in the equilibrium expression. Next, we use X to represent the amount of chromium 3 hydroxide that dissociated. For every X amount of solid that dissociates, there is X amount of chromium ion and 3X amount of hydroxides, as there will be 3 times as much hydroxide as chromium in our solution. Plugging in our X's to the KSP expression, we can then simplify. It is very important that you make sure to utilize any coefficients in the reaction twice. Coefficients show up once as the exponent and once again as the coefficient to the x. The work up to this point, where KSP will equal some expression with an x, this is the same setup that will be used for every solubility problem. The next step depends on what the MCAT asks. The AAMC will either give you a molar solubility and ask you to solve for KSP, or give you a KSP and ask you to solve for molar solubility. Here, we were given molar solubility, so we'll plug that in for x. Distribute the exponent, multiply through, and then simplify down into proper scientific notation. And we find the KSP for chromium 3 hydroxide is about 4.3 times 10 to the negative 38th. Of course, if we can go in one direction, we can also go in another. In this next example, we'll use the given KSP of lead 2 chloride of 1.2 times 10 to the negative 5th to answer a few questions. First, what is the molar solubility, or concentration at equilibrium, of the lead and chloride ions? Then, if you were able to dissolve 20 grams of lead 2 chloride into a 1 liter solution, what type of solution, unsaturated, saturated, or supersaturated, would you have? This problem starts out like all solubility problems, with a balanced dissociation reaction. Solid lead 2 chloride will dissociate into 1 lead and 2 chloride ions. Then, we write out the KSP expression, making sure to place the chloride's coefficient as the exponent. Next, we will substitute in our variable x, making sure to keep track of there being 2 times as much chloride as lead. After substituting in our x's, we can then distribute the exponent and simplify to find that KSP equals 4 times x to the third. In this problem, KSP was given, so we substitute 1.2 times 10 to the negative 5th for KSP and then solve for x. We can rewrite 1.2 times 10 to the negative 5th as 12 times 10 to the negative 6th to make dividing each side by 4 easier. Next, we need to take the cubed root of both sides, which will mean dividing the exponent by 3, and taking the cubed root of our coefficient. The cubed root of 3 is about 1.4, which is now multiplied by 10 to the negative 2nd. Don't worry if you aren't exactly sure how to calculate the cubed root of 3. On test day, we can estimate. We should remember that the square root of 3 is around 1.7, so the cubed root should be less than 1.7, but still greater than 1. And that estimation will get us close enough to the answer choices on the MCAT. After plugging x back into our ion concentrations, we find that at equilibrium, we would expect 1.4 times 10 to the negative 2nd molar lead ions and twice as much, or 2.8 times 10 to the negative 2nd molar chloride ions. We have an answer to the first question, but now we need to know what the solution will look like if 20 grams of lead 2 chloride are dissolved to make a 1 liter solution. Grams aren't a particularly helpful unit, at least not directly, so we need to convert grams into moles. Using a periodic table, we can determine the molar mass of lead 2 chloride to be 278. This means there were 7 times 10 to the negative second moles of PbCl2 dissolved in the 1 liter solution. In order to see how saturated the solution is, we'll need the ion product to compare to the KSP. Solving for ion product is very similar to solving for KSP. We'll start with the expression, which is exactly the same as the KSP expression. We know that there are 7 times 10 to the negative second moles of PbCl2 in this 1 liter solution, which means there are 7 times 10 to the negative second moles of lead and twice as much, or 14 times 10 to the negative second moles of chloride. Next, we have to distribute the exponents and then combine the terms, and we can simplify down to an ion product of about 1.4 times 10 to the negative third. When we compare to the given KSP of 1.2 times 10 to the negative fifth, we see that our KSP is less than our ion product by 2 orders of magnitude, which is just another way of saying that our ion product is about 100 times larger than our KSP. This means the solution must be super saturated. In our example so far, we've had different numbers of dissociating ions, which has led to different coefficients and exponents of our x variable. Luckily, there is a pattern here that we can use as a shortcut to help us move more quickly on test day. Typically, the salts used are a combination of a metal and a halide, which is what is abbreviated here, but you could use any metal-non-metal combination. With one of each, M and X, the KSP is x squared. With 2 halides and 1 metal, the KSP equals 4x cubed. And with 3 halides and 1 metal, the KSP is 27x to the fourth. Let's explore some examples to prove to ourselves why this pattern holds. Silver chloride is a 1-to-1 metal halide salt, and we start by writing out the balanced dissociation reaction. We see that there are equal parts silver and chloride dissociated, so each can be represented by x, so when we put the x in our KSP expression, we then have x squared. Lead-2 iodide has twice as many halide ions as metal ions when dissociated. So, when assigning x, we place 2x for the iodide ion. Substituting into our KSP expression, then distributing out the squared sign over the iodide concentration, we find we have 4x to the third, because the 2 coefficient of the iodide gets squared, and then there is an x multiplied by x squared, giving us x cubed. And with iron 3 hydroxide, we aren't using a halogen, but the same idea still holds. In the balanced dissociation reaction, we have 3 times as many hydroxides dissociated than iron ions. So the concentration of hydroxides will be represented by 3x. Plugging into our KSP expression, the 3 coefficient will be cubed, giving us 27, and then we have x multiplied by x cubed, giving us x to the fourth. Each case validates part of the pattern, a pattern which can save us valuable time on test day. KSP is the primary constant we will find in solubility questions on the MCAT. However, there is another constant, Kf, that quantifies the strength of complex formation. Where KSP values are often small, something times 10 to a negative number, Kf values are often huge, something times 10 to a large positive number. For example, if you were to have aqueous iron and aqueous cyanide, they would have a very large tendency to come together to form a ferrocyanide complex, which is much more stable than individual iron or cyanide ions. Note that the ferrocyanide complex is still aqueous. We didn't create a solid precipitate like you would with the KSP dissociation reaction. This is a different type of reaction where the aqueous ions find stability in an aqueous complex but don't precipitate. Typically, we find ion complexes forming because of a mixture of solutes. In this case, we have a solution with some ammonia dissociated in water. We then add silver chloride, which will dissociate in water until it reaches equilibrium. But at the same time, silver and ammonia will combine to form diamine silver 1. The formation constant for diamine silver 1 is 17 orders of magnitude larger than the KSP of silver chloride, meaning that any silver that dissociates will be readily turned into a diamine silver 1 complex. The common ion effect, as the name suggests, is the byproduct of there being more than one source for a given ion in solution. That is, an ion is common between the salt you are trying to dissolve and what is already in the solution. The overall effect is a reduction in the molar solubility of a salt, given the presence of one of its ions already in the solution. In this example, silver nitrate is fully dissociated in our solution. Then we add some silver chloride. Here, silver is the common ion between the solution and the dissociating solid. Because the ion silver is already in solution, less of the silver chloride will dissociate. The solution may already be near saturation for silver ions, so the molar solubility of the silver chloride is reduced. Importantly, the KSP of silver chloride does not change. Only temperature would change KSP. It is the X value, molar solubility, that will be different if you were to run a calculation on this solution. Let's practice our solubility calculation skills with this example problem. We are given the KSP of silver iodide and asked to find the saturated concentration of iodide when placing the silver iodide in a 1 times 10 to the negative fifth molar solution of silver nitrate. Here the answer is B, and let's go through the calculation. It is important to recognize that this is a common ion effect problem, and so the solution starts off with 1 times 10 to the negative 5th molar silver. We then generate the KSP expression for silver iodide. Although this would typically simplify to KSP equals x squared, things are different here because the concentration of silver in solution isn't only from the dissociated silver iodide. There's a good deal of silver present in solution already, so we must make sure to add in the 1 times 10 to the negative 5th molar silver into our calculation. Before we multiply through, we take the same shortcut we took with our KEQ problems. We assume that x is a small number, so adding or subtracting with x is negligible, meaning that we can just ignore the plus x. With this reasonable simplification, the algebra becomes much easier, and we find that the molar solubility of iodine, or X, is 1 times 10 to the negative 11th. Note how the KSP didn't change with the common ion effect, but the molar solubility is reduced. If you ran this calculation again, but instead dissolved silver iodide in pure water, you'd find the concentration to be 1 times 10 to the negative 8th, or 3 orders of magnitude larger than with the common ion effect. Let's try a conceptual MCAT problem. What should happen if you cool a saturated solution of iron 2 hydroxide? Precipitate formation is the most likely thing to happen with the temperature drop to a saturated solution. Changing the temperature will change the KSP, and KSP for solids vary directly with temperature, so lower temperature will lower KSP, making this saturated solution now supersaturated, as the ion product would now be above KSP. Supersaturated solutions tend to precipitate in order to reach equilibrium. Let's review the key takeaways that are going to help us predict the behavior of ions in solution and let us calculate molar solubilities and KSPs. The saturation point is just another way to say equilibrium with solution problems, and is not a static condition, rather where the rate of dissociation is equal to the rate of precipitation. The KSP is a way to quantify the solubility of a particular ionic compound. It is calculated just like all the other equilibrium Ks. Remember not to include solids or liquids, and that KSP is constant for a given temperature and pressure. The ion product is a snapshot that lets us relate the current condition of the solution to that solution in equilibrium. Ion product is calculated just like KSP, but it is variable, and it uses the concentrations of the ions at an instant in time, not the equilibrium concentrations of ions like you'd use in a KSP calculation. In an unsaturated solution, ion product is less than KSP, and more solute could dissolve. The solution is in equilibrium when the ion product and KSP are equal, which is also referred to as a saturated solution. A supersaturated solution is the ion product greater than KSP, and these conditions favor precipitation. The molar solubility is the concentration of solute that can dissolve at equilibrium. We typically represent this with an X when solving problems, and it's a good idea to write out the dissociation reaction first to make sure we balance everything before jumping to the KSP expression with the X's. We do have a shortcut that allows us to quickly generate the simplified X expressions given the makeup of the starting salt and the cation-anion ratio. The formation constant, Kf, represents something different from KSP in that Kf quantifies the stability and ultimately the strength of complex formation. And the common ion effect accounts for the reduced molar solubility of a salt if it is being dissolved in a solution that contains one of its constituent ions. Note that the common ion effect will not change KSP, it will only change the molar solubility. Solution equilibria is a huge topic, and although we've explored all the high-yield ideas and several straightforward methods for quickly calculating problems on test day, please make sure to review this topic as necessary. And as always, best of luck on test day.